All right. Welcome, everyone. Really happy to be here today to do this 1 hour noontime presentation with our partner, the City of Santa Clara Library. So you should be seeing my slides on your screen at the moment. Hopefully you are seeing those. Again, this is a partnership between the City of Santa Clara Library and NOVAworks, which is a job center. I'll explain a little bit more about who we are. Um, Let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to cover today. So I'll do a more in-depth introduction of NOVA in just a moment. We are going to go into what's called a job search plan overview. I'm going to show you a free resource on the NOVAworks website called My Plan and walk you through step by step some content that's available to you that you can access to help with a job search. I'll also provide you a form called a PDF interactive fillable job search plan outline, which Nevin also mentioned she will email everyone after the class today so that you can take a look at that and align it with the job search plan and what you'd like to access. Then we'll go into tips for virtual interviews because that's become the norm during the pandemic and post-pandemic. And then also pause to go over all the wonderful library services that are available to assist you with job search and other offerings. And then I'll talk briefly, if you're interested in joining NOVAworks, how to access our services, and then we'll take that Q&A. So lots to go over. Let me go ahead and do a little bit more formal introduction of myself. Again, my name is Lisa Gonzalez. I'm a career advisor at NOVAworks. We are the workforce development agency responsible for all of San Mateo County and 7 cities within the northern part of Santa Clara County. So that also includes the city of Santa Clara. All of our services are free to the public. We are federally and grant funded, so there are no costs to you at all. And again, at the end, I'm going to show you how to contact us if you're interested in registering for our services. But the web link I'm going to go over with you is free and open to the public. You do not have to be a member. You do not have to register. You do not have to log in. This is content you can take advantage of today if you choose to assist you with your job search. So let's go ahead and move forward and talk about the job search process and our job search plan. Our job search process is put into 4 different categories, and they're sequential, so they make sense. If you're truly at the beginning of your job search, you are in box 1 here. You're in focus stage. Focus is when you're trying to identify a job title or your next step. You're trying to get an understanding of what skills are needed, maybe what the salary range, the market range is for that position, what the labor market demand is like, and really asking yourself, can I apply to these jobs and am I marketable? Next, if you have your focus, you know your target area, you're going to create your marketing materials, and that tends to be your resume, your application, perhaps your LinkedIn profile. So again, once you know your focus, you have your clear objective, you're applying through those marketing materials. Step 3 is your job search itself, and that includes both the hidden job market and the visible job market. So networking is a huge component of that. But how will you job search? You're going to do a little bit of everything. So we're going to talk about the visible job market, which are online job boards, and then the hidden job market, which is more using people, your network, your referral, conducting informational meetings, perhaps creating a target list of companies, and then attending job fairs and applying for jobs, having a strategy there. And finally, once you're applying, you're going to be ready to interview. Again, we're going to talk about virtual interview tips, but you need to be ready to interview. So how do I prepare? What do I have to offer? Why would this employer hire me? And then salary negotiation. So those are the 4 steps. And like I said, we will look at a tool in a moment to kind of assess where you are in them. Where you are in this job search process, but I wanted to give that high level overview and then go into the content more in depth. So this web link, which again, you'll be provided through the slides, is to our webpage called My Plan. And I'm going to go ahead and click it, and hopefully everyone can see that on my page. And there are the 4 steps of our job search plan. Now, if you are on a smaller device and it's collapsed a little bit, meaning you kind of see it like this and you're wondering where those left options went, just be sure to expand these lines so that you then see the different selections here. And you can always return to the My Plan homepage to get back to this page here. But what I'm going to show you now are different content, exercises, tools, etc., that you can use depending on what stage of the job search plan you are in. And so we talked about the beginning stage, which is focus. So if I click on this box, it's going to give me just a brief overview. There's even a video to watch. But over here on the left is where you're now seeing the different links available. So the first one I want to show you, and I'm just going to show you a few of these and then encourage you to later um, look at this on your own and see what would be most helpful to you. But under the focus stage, which is our box 1, we have this one link here called organizational tools. Now, this is a great way to get organized at the beginning of your job search or as you're going through job search. One of the biggest concerns people typically have is job search is overwhelming. It's really hard to have a schedule or organization in place. And so this link here has a lot of great resources that you can utilize. So if we scroll down a little bit, you're going to see a link where you can get some tools to manage your time and organize your job search. And even if you want to create a job search binder, you can go ahead and download these, print them out, and organize your job search. There's a master checklist. There's different things you'd want to accomplish if you were in focus, resume, job search, interview, etc. So this is a great place to kind of pause as you get started on your job search under organizational tools. I'll also just come down here to career assessment. Career assessment is a great exercise to do if, again, you want to come up with occupational suggestions, or maybe you think you know what you want to do and you want to solidify that decision, or perhaps you're not sure why you've been unhappy or unsatisfied in prior work or employment, and you want to evaluate yourself and understand yourself better so that you make good career decisions moving forward. So we have some great resources here. There is an assessment you can take on identifying your skills. There's another that you can take that leads you to understanding what your interest codes are, your interest areas, which also leads to occupational suggestions. Values, in my opinion, are so incredibly important. Those change through time. And I always encourage people to periodically reevaluate their values so that you know kind of what your bar is in terms of aiming for an opportunity that will match as many of those important values that you've identified. And then there's personality assessments, which you might have heard of before. Most people have heard of personality in terms of a Myers-Briggs type indicator, an MBTI. But these are free resources, and that's about finding your natural fit. What kind of is your natural way of being, and using that information to find, again, and apply to your next opportunity. So again, under focus, I showed you organizational tools and self-assessment. Really important to kind of come back and look at all of these if you like. We have other sections under focus that you can check out. But going back to my plan homepage, that is the content available under box 1. So once you have your focus, you're pretty clear on the skills needed, perhaps what the labor market is providing in terms of opportunities and salary market range for you. You can move on and now start creating your marketing materials. I do just want to pause here around skills needed. We'll talk a little bit later through the library offerings on how you can maybe upgrade some skills through some amazing resources that the library offers. So if through your assessment you're concerned that you need to refresh or upgrade skills, you can maybe utilize some of those resources. And should you choose to register with NOVAworks, we also have skills resources through training options available through our agency. Okay, so let's move forward to our box 2, which is our marketing material. And like I said, this is about your resume, your job application, perhaps your LinkedIn profile. When you select this box, again, you're getting an overview of the information. But over here on the left, under resume and application, we're seeing tabs for resume, applications, etc. So let's go ahead and click on the one that says resumes. And here is just a lot of great content that you can immediately start utilizing to help you with your resume. We have a video as well as a T-chart to show you how to customize a resume, which means that you take your resume and you make sure it matches the job posting or the opportunity. So employers can immediately see how you're qualified for the position, and you can get past those applicant tracking systems or software systems that some companies use to screen your resume. And then we go section by section over different parts of a resume. And here you'll see contact information, objective, summary, work experience, education. And if you select any of those, it's going to break it down a little bit more about how you might create a summary, skills, and then there are different worksheets available and templates you can use. So this is great here. Let me go back. Contact info, objective, again, it goes into each section. And then at the very end of this particular page, we have some templates for chronological resumes, what's called a skill-based or a functional resume. And then for those of you who might be new grads or received recent training or have little to no work experience, we have something here that you can utilize as a template as well. And then some different resources, some resume tips. If you're interested in understanding how to write a good cover letter, which is usually an email message, what a cover letter would entail and why you might consider writing one, etc. So great information around the resume here. I also want to click on application tab, because what we're going to encourage you to do is go ahead and download the sample job employment application and fill it out. That way you have all of your information compiled in one document and you're not going to have to go searching for it each time you apply. And again, an application can be in person where you're filling out a piece of paper with a pen or a pencil, well, not a pencil, a pen, right? Or you're applying online. So it's just really helpful to kind of compile that information through having a master document first so that you can easily input your information when you are applying. Now, each application will be somewhat different, but this is a pretty general template that you can use as a master to move things over as you're in application systems. The other links we have here that are quite helpful is additional information around background checks. So if you want some additional information around background checks that might include credit history or criminal history or maybe a driving record, also how to get a list of your references together, you can click on these links as well to get some additional information. And we always like to highlight that these background checks, not all are done for each position. It really depends on the role itself. If you do have some concerns with maybe preparing for a background check or dealing with errors, information specific to the state of California, which really does touch on things like credit history and criminal history, you can take a look at these links. And then finally, if any of you are interested in finding out more about a record clearance program, San Jose State has a really excellent record clearance program. We have that referral link here where you can then find out more about that opportunity to go through that process. So we are in box 2 under resume and application, and again showed you a bunch of great resources you can use there. Oops, I went too far there. Sorry about that. Okay, so now we're back at our job search plan itself. So we've got our focus, we've got our marketing materials. We're now going to dig into job search and networking, which is our box 3 here. So again, if we click on box 3, we are now in job search. We do have some really nice handouts around recruitment or staffing agencies that you can look at and decide to reach out to. And then the more common internet resources or internet web pages to look for job search. Now, this is firmly in the realm of what we call the visible job market, right? So visible means anyone who's looking for a job can see it at that time. So these are things like the temp agencies and the job boards. But we want to talk more about what's called the hidden job market. So under the same link for job search and networking, I'm going to go down to target companies. So very important to create a list of target companies that you're interested in, based perhaps on your industry or the type of organization you would like. And then go after them, right? See if you know someone there. try and find a hiring manager on LinkedIn, apply cold so that you might be one of one versus one of several hundred potential job searchers. Now, we have some great videos here around how to come up with a target company list. By chance, one of the resources we highly suggest you use is called A to Z database, and that is available through local libraries. I'll let Nevin talk a little bit more about how you might find A to Z database through the city of Santa Clara. There's also another database called Reference Solutions that is quite popular for individuals to use. They're very similar, but helps you search for a target list of companies and come up with a list. So here are some questions you can even ask of why you might want to research each company, and questions you can ask as you're doing your research. So very important to have a comprehensive job search strategy that does not just rely on the internet or job boards, but has quite a bit more in terms of your network and that hidden job those hidden job opportunities. Over 80% of jobs are never posted publicly. And so there's a very large percentage of jobs that are found within what's called the hidden job market. Similarly, you are seeing things here around conducting what's called information meetings. You can get information about how to do that, why you would want to do that, and then using additional tools like social media, etc. The key here is really just to have a strategy. So very important to have a strategy for yourself. All right, and so if you're following along here, we know your focus, you know the market rate for your work, your skills are up to date, you're marketable, you've created your marketing materials, your resume, you're applying, you've got a really nice, comprehensive and diverse job search strategy, not relying too heavily just on job boards. It's a portion of your job search, but you're also doing more, like utilizing your network, etc. And finally, interview, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select box 4 for interview here. And by the way, I often say you don't have to wait until you're in this stage to start prepping for interviewing. I think even if you're very early in the process, you should probably start preparing for interview. So let's go ahead and click on interview here. And over on the left, there's quite a bit around interviewing. So if we go into interview techniques, we're going to see templates that allow you to create what's called a summary statement. So a summary statement is an interview response for that question, tell me about yourself, or why should we hire you? There are templates available to create what we call accomplishment stories or problem solution results. These are mini stories or mini examples of a strength or a competency to show the employer that you have that skill or accomplishment. It's more than just listing the job duty. It's creating a small scenario so they really feel that you are able to do the work that you're saying, and it allows you to stand out amongst the crowd of applicants or interviewees. Sandwiching negatives is about when you're asked to answer a question like, when did you make a mistake? Or what did you like least about your last job? Or perhaps even, what have you been doing since your last job ended? So with all of these, you could click on the link and then it gives you a template or information to follow along with a downloadable worksheet. And then we'll go over the sample interview questions in just a moment. So more here around getting asked salary questions, salary expectations, what happens at the end of the interview called closing the interviews, perhaps questions you might also ask the employer, how to do follow-up, and then behavior-based interviewing is when employers are specifically asking for an example. It does kind of follow these accomplishment stories in that you do answer them with a PSR or problem solution result format. But again, having these stories ready to show the employer and being able to answer those interview questions. And then additional tools to help you prepare for interviews, like a skills checklist. For those of you who are technical and you may get a technical interview, we have some amazing resources here under this link. It gives some additional information around whiteboarding and then some additional training resources. And then there's also, again, just some different opportunities to look at different coding sites. All right, so going back to interview techniques. We were here under technical here. Let's do the sample interview questions. So this is really great. So this is a list of sample interview questions. This is a list of questions you may get when you're asked for a summary response. So like I mentioned, it's that first one that gets the interview off to a good start. Tell me about yourself. How are you qualified? And then these questions on the second section here are more around that accomplishment story or problem solution results. So what are your strengths? What accomplishments are you most proud of? Tell me about a time or give me an example of. And then the sandwich response, which is all about the weakness question. Tell me about a weakness. What did you find challenging in your last position? Describe a mistake you made. And then the salary screen, which is asking you about your salary expectation or requirements. And then we have a list of questions that you may want to ask the employer at the end of the interview. You always should have a couple of questions you're asking the employer. Okay, so we went through this, and then I just want to go over a couple more things here. One is negotiating. Negotiating is one of those parts of the job search that make people quite nervous, but we want to prepare you. And key is just knowing what the market research shows in terms of the going rate for your position at your level. And so we have these wonderful resources that are available. Again, everything here are free resources. You don't have to pay for anything. And then we also have a budget sheet that you could utilize just to know what your numbers are. We have a total compensation package checklist. So oftentimes people might negotiate salary or other things that are important to them. You can negotiate more than just salary. Perhaps you want some work-life balance. You want to negotiate work from home or hybrid work. Perhaps you want to negotiate number of vacation days. Stock options, a sign-on bonus, those kinds of things. You can look at the list and identify what's important to you and then utilize that as part of your negotiation conversation. And by the way, having understanding of how that conversation goes back and forth is really important. I often talk about how it's so important when you're negotiating to make sure it's collaborative, that it has a positive outcome, that both parties win. So we give you some sample scripts that you can review, and then a template where you can write a script out on your own. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the My Plan here. So again, through this link, novaworks.org/myplan, all 4 steps are outlined, and each time you select one of these steps, you are able to look at the additional content that's available. I'm going to show another page that you are going to get a link to. And just if you can verify, you can see this, which is an interactive job search plan handout. You might be wondering, where do I start, right? Where am I? And some of you might already know that by just me describing each stage. But if you're a little unsure, this interactive PDF that you'll get a link to is great, because you can say, well, am I in focus? And you can ask yourself if you know the following. Do you know your interests, skills, and values? Do you know if there are jobs at my current level? Do I know the requirements of the local job? And do I know the current salary? If you could check off all of those and you feel pretty comfortable about focus, then you're not there, right? You've checked those off. Perhaps you're in resume and application. So you could maybe select some of these that you feel like you've already accomplished or have done, like you know how to create a resume with your summary, experience, and education. You've listed accomplishment statements. Maybe you haven't customized it. So that's where you are. You leave that blank and say, well, now I need to customize my resume. And I also need to upload or update my LinkedIn profile, right? So this checklist is very helpful. Similarly, there are boxes under the job search and networking and interviewing. So each of you could go through this and then identify where you feel that you are in your process in terms of job search, and then align it back with the parts of My Plan where you are selecting each box that shows what you need to still accomplish. All right, so I would highly suggest you use that alongside our web content. All right. I'm going to continue on since we're going to hold Q&A until the end. So just for the second part of this workshop, I'm going to go over some virtual interview tips, as we mentioned, and then give some additional information. Now, we know before COVID, there were video interviews, but they certainly weren't as prevalent as they've become during the pandemic and today. Employers will tell us that these are not going to go away. They actually like the convenience that virtual interview has brought to the table. And even if things should return to, and I'll put quotations around it, normal, most likely your first and even maybe second round interview will be virtual. We've actually had individuals who have done their entire interview virtually and even started work virtually. But at some point, what we're seeing more and more is you may go in person to meet the team. And then depending on the expectation of the work environment, you might work virtually, hybrid, or on-site. Just depends on the employer. But we want to make sure we give everyone some virtual interview tips because there are some things that we just really didn't take into consideration before, and now we really need to do. And technology is one of those things. So we are on Zoom today. We tested our connection. We made sure everything was working in terms of audio and video and being able to share. Those are the kinds of things you're going to want to do if you have a video interview coming up. So wherever you're going to sign into a video or virtual interview, you're going to want to make sure you have a strong internet signal or an internet connection. If home has that, fantastic. If not, you're going to want to find an alternative site. Libraries, by the way, have great internet access. So that can be a way for you to get an interview conducted and have a strong connection. Always ask what platform will be used. Again, we are on Zoom today, but there are many, many different video platforms. So you'll want to ask the employer ahead of time, and then you'll want to make sure you know how to navigate or work within that platform. So that might entail you downloading it onto your device, logging in with an account if needed, and then playing around with it, right? Having a friend, someone who can maybe join a meeting with you so that you feel comfortable on the platform and with the settings. I know a lot of people share accounts. So if you share your computer with your family, your child, your spouse, your partner, someone else, your roommate, just make sure when you log in that the account will be under your name or rename yourself if needed. So there's no confusion about your identity. And then again, test the equipment. Know where the mute button is, the speakers, check the audio, etc. This is great to do ahead of time or right before the meeting starts, just to make sure everything is working. And this last bullet is so important. Something might go wrong despite your best efforts. It happens. So just take a deep breath, but have a backup plan ahead of time should you get disconnected or there are technical issues. Make sure you have a backup contact number. And then at the very end, especially if you're on a public computer, make sure you disconnect and you log off when you're done. Okay. So some things to consider that we didn't used to have to consider, but is pretty par for the course or the norm now. Other things around etiquette and behavior. Don't use the video as a camera. Also dress professionally, and oftentimes we'll say, oh, from the waist up at least, but there's science that shows if you dress head to toe professionally, you have different energy come across. You just have more confidence. So I would actually suggest you go ahead and dress for an interview that's virtual the same you would do if you were going in person. Make sure to eliminate distractions. So if you have a pet, there's a noisy road, whatever that is, try and eliminate that beforehand. Avoid multitasking because you don't want to be doing something else while you're interviewing. Maintain good eye contact and look at the camera. And this can take some getting used to because oftentimes we want to look at our screens and the image of the person we're talking to. But if you do that, it's going to look like you're looking away from them. So you're going to want to practice that you're actually looking into the camera itself, because then it will appear that you're looking at them rather than away. And then if you do have something come up, like you need to sneeze, someone comes in the room, just know how to turn off the camera and mute yourself if needed. And again, you can usually use the chat feature if something comes up, you need to leave, etc. You're having technical issues. So good to get really comfortable, again, with the technology, but also just be aware that they can see you and you want to present yourself well. And finally, I think I covered this when I was talking about the other slide, but have that backup plan. Things happen despite your best preparation. It's okay. Perhaps get a phone number at the beginning or prior to the virtual meeting and just say, just in case we have technical difficulties, can I share my phone number or my email so that we can connect differently? And then in terms of your virtual interview, you want something simple. I'm on a virtual background right now. I'm in the office today, but we've created these virtual backgrounds with our logo. You can use a virtual background. There's a lot of them on the internet. You can just Google free Zoom virtual backgrounds and upload an image. If you have a nice photograph you've taken, maybe that you'd like to upload, you can do that. If not, just do a simple background like a wall, something that's professional and clean. You don't want it to be too busy. So not too much going on in the background. And then you can keep a notepad and a pen nearby so that you can take notes. So that's very beneficial when you're interviewing virtually. And by the way, you can also have your notes in front of you. So a copy of your resume, maybe some of your sample responses. Of course, you don't want to read those, but just having them there as a reminder can be very helpful. And on a virtual interview platform, they don't necessarily see that you have these in front of you, so it can give you an advantage in terms of how to answer. Okay, so that is a lot of information in a short period of time. I do want to hand it over to Nevin, who is going to talk a little bit about Santa Clara City Library services and all the wonderful offerings they have. And then we'll come back and just give a little bit more information. Go ahead, Nevin.
Thank you, Lisa. Great tips. Yes, I'm going to talk about a little bit what we are offering at Santa Clara City Library. We have 3 branches: Central Park, a main library, and Mission and Northside. And I am going to, can I share my screen, Lisa? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is our website, sclibrary.org. Since we have a lot of services, resources, we try to keep most of the things visible on the homepage. Here you can see locations, how to get a card, what's going on in your account, and some current programs like Summer Adventure, formerly Summer Reading, or Tax Help. We continue helping low-income people with their tax returns. So if you go to our website, here on the top banner, you would see most of the things. Other than borrowing books from the library, we offer a lot of things. Today, I am going to talk more about job search related resources. As Lisa mentioned, for most of the interviews, virtual interviews, let's say if you don't have internet access or not strong internet access, or if your location is or house is not a good place to do a virtual interview, you can reserve study rooms in the libraries, and you can borrow hotspot or Chromebooks, or just basically you come to the library and use our Wi-Fi. For research tools, here when you hover on this and then research tools and research by subject, here you are going to see jobs, career, and professional development. Some of the services that you can access here. Again, everything is free. If you have a library card with us, you can get a library card by just showing your government picture ID. It could be a passport, it could be your driver's license. Coursera, online tool, provide job training and test preparation and so on. And Get Set Up. This is mostly for older adults to learn new skills or being up to date about the mentally and physically being fit or some economic opportunity through jobs. One of the things I want to mention is LinkedIn Learning. Here you can access all the courses taught by expert instructors, mostly this could be good for communication skills that you may want to learn, and other resources. When you go here, we also have free legal advice, ESL programs, digitizing some old materials, again, tax help for low-income people that volunteers are helping you to file your tax return. Where Lisa mentioned that reference solutions that you can see and locate some businesses that you want to search jobs in their websites. It is here again, research by subject. When you scroll down, you will see reference and directories. Here, when you scroll down, this is the reference solutions. This one, formerly Reference USA. You can see local businesses and some important names and contact information. This is, and also, lastly, I want to mention where you can see these kind of webinars or in-person programs. If you go to calendar, all events. We, as you see, our webinar is here. And when you scroll down, you will see all adult, kids, or teen programs. You can navigate and see only adult events if you are interested in only adult events. As you see, there is genealogy help, ESL book club, ESL conversation club, lawyers in the library, some health talks, some author talks. This is how you navigate on our website. Again, if you have any questions about any of these resources, when Lisa shares her screen, you will see our contact information. Please feel free to email us here in librarians@santaclaraca.gov, or you can call us. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm always so impressed with everything the library offers. Every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, I forgot, or that's so amazing. Libraries are such incredible community resources.
Thank
All
you.
right, yeah, so okay, so we're just going to wrap up the last couple of slides before we do Q&A. I also wanted to let you know a little bit more about NOVAworks and our services. So as I mentioned earlier, there are no costs to you. Everything we offer here is free. Now, key to our services is working with career counselors or career advisors. You can schedule one-on-one appointments as often as you need to get that assistance with your job search. So there's an entire team both at our Sunnyvale location and our San Mateo location. And our advising appointments are via phone, Zoom, or in person. So you do have an option in terms of how you'd like to receive services. We also have over 20 plus workshops that we offer that align with the different sections of the job search plan. So we have resume workshops, LinkedIn workshops, assessment workshops, job search workshops, interviewing workshops, all kinds of really great offerings that you also can attend. Most are via Zoom, but we have started slowly adding some in-person options as well. We have great networking opportunities. We have what's called the Connections Group, and that consists of a weekly Thursday morning meeting where we are come together again via Zoom. We have guest speakers. You're able to network with individuals within the meeting. There are evening mixers, other opportunities to form what's called success teams. So you get a small group together to support and help with that accountability and job search of like-minded individuals. So lots of great ways to connect to people. And we have training funding and online training resources. So we both can enter into a contracted situation where NOVA is paying for training, or we can provide online resources. Now that's going to depend on what grant you might be eligible for. So once you register with NOVA, we determine kind of your eligibility and then what offerings we can give you in terms of training possibilities. And then we do have a NOVA job board, as well as opportunities for what's called employer recruitments through active recruitment. So this is one division at NOVA called Business Services, who's out there working with employers, trying to find employment opportunities for our NOVA members and pushing those leads to them so that they can find new employment. So all kinds of great resources here. And again, no cost to you. So if you're interested, oops, went one page too far. Sorry about that. So if you're interested, it's very simple. You would just call our front desk and say that you're interested in becoming a NOVA member. Our front desk number is 408-730-7232. And they'll tell you what you need to do in order to register and get started with accessing our services. So we are at the point in the presentation where we have time for Q&A if there are any questions. Not sure if there have been any questions. I don't think I see any, but if you do have questions, feel free to ask at this time.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm going to stop recording and we can move to Q&A session.